palpitating. Here we go. This is it. We're in the real world.
Oh,
We're at the top of the
man.
roller coaster. Here we go.
Here we go.
Jeez, this crazy thing.
You're listening to, and this is why I love comics.
Andy and Mike. Andy and Mike. This is why I love comics.
And welcome to another episode of And This Is Why I Love... What is it? Comics? Oh, comics. This is why I love comics. I'm Andy.
And Mike.
That's Mike. And we have a special guest tonight, all the way from the YouTubes.
Oh.
It's Jamie.
I committed to this forgetting that you guys worked this in the theater of the mind. I forgot that I brought all these comic books to show, and I'm just going to show them to my computer screen, I guess. But.
Yeah,
Well,
you're going to have to do that.
Is you can pretend like, and here's Amazing Fantasy. I've got number 1 through the end of the run of 17, and then I've got here's Fantastic Four number 1, and I got this one comic that's got Superman holding a car over his head. No idea what this is worth, but
Anybody hear that? Actually, I have a friend who, a friend in quotes because he's more of a Facebook friend, but in Matt 10.0's comic book group, his name is CB Dave, and he has so many Golden Age comics. It's I cry just looking at them.
One of those guys, huh?
Yeah, and he shows them off not for pride, but just so we can see it and stuff like that. He's a really cool guy, but man, he's got so much stuff. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Yeah, the whole showing your collection thing. I've gone through so many emotions about it because, I mean, outside looking in, like I would never have thought I'd be one of those that would, just want to show, hey, everybody, look at all this cool stuff I have that you don't. But as it turns out, other people have cooler stuff than I do. So
Right,
I'm just
yeah.
getting in line to kind of share what I have.
Right.
Yeah.
Every time he shows me his Justice League of America collection, like number 1 and number 3 and 5 and all the ones I don't have, I send him little gifts of me just, shaking my head no. And, so I try to make fun of my tears,
Are you a run collector? I'm not sure if we talked about this before. What motivates you as a collector? What do you chase after?
Yeah, I'm definitely a run collector. I like to get every issue. I wasn't like that as a kid because, money was tight. And when I went to 7-Eleven, it was whatever was on the rack, I'll grab it. As I got older, I need every issue. It's kind of a curse. It's hard to imagine just storylines. I'm not that kind of collector. I'll read them.
Right.
But if I have issues 6, 7, 8, and 9, I might read them for the podcast, but I need 1, 2, 3, 4. I need the continuity. Something in my brain says you must have them all, which is also why I don't collect a lot of things, because I know I'll just go all in. And
it's funny. I'm a mix between like collecting for the creator behind it and run collecting. A lot of, in the big wide world of comic book collecting, everybody refers to them. Well, not everybody. A lot of people refer to themselves as key collectors. So they're going after all the key, the important issues. And I've always been an X-Men fan, and I've been building my X-Men collection for pretty much my whole life. But I'm just now getting to the point where I'm only a few issues away from having everything from 94 through the end of the run. That's like the big run that I'm trying to finish now. I also kind of chip away at Legion of Superheroes and Daredevil and things like that. But then outside of that, I'm going for like shorter run storylines based on who created it, like the Avengers, that era in the 80s where it was John Byrne and George Perez alternating the art. I'm trying to get all that.
Yeah, I have a lot of those too. And certainly I started out getting Justice League of Americas, and I've always wanted that entire run. And I'm 10 issues away from having that full run. And of course, it's the really expensive ones,
Right.
For the most part. Not necessarily 1 through 10, because I do have issue 3 and 6 or whatever. A spattering of single digits, but most of the ones I haven't got, I just they're going to cost me $1,000 or $2,000, and I can't drop that much money as yet.
Mm-hmm.
But
got a few kids that kind of want to eat.
Right? Yeah, I can't explain that to my wife. Although she understands, but Legion of Superheroes, that's my jam too. So I feel you there. I think I have everything but some of the adventure ones. So
yeah, that's an attainable kind of group to follow. It's one of those things where, like Supergirl or something like that, where there's no diehard fans out there other than a few guys like us that really appreciate them. Where like everybody's out to get them. Like, I mean, Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, and X-Men seem like they're steering the ship as far as collecting the runs and things like that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You had mentioned Daredevil. Are you going all the way back on Daredevil, or just are you starting at okay, here's the Gene Colan era, or here's the Frank Miller era, or are you going all the way back to 1?
Well, starting, I guess I should say, at the early Frank Miller days, I've got 168, first appearance of Elektra, and a few issues before that, handful of issues before that, where he was just drawing it but not writing. And then I'm trying to collect basically everything beyond that till the end. Mm-hmm. And then once I kind of get all that filled in, I'll kind of chip away at the earlier issues. And I'll do the same thing with X-Men. I'll skip the reprint era and do the Neil Adams era next, and then the Steranko issues. And then I am trying to get the bigger keys right now before they get any more expensive. So that, a few years down the road, they might be out of reach.
Now, was it that giant size, or was it the first official comic, or the all new, all different? Which one was it that you were like, I got the money, and then the price went up astronomically in between?
That was on Giant Size X-Men #1. It was where at a certain point I was looking at them on eBay, and I was to the point where I was like, every once in a while I end up with a good chunk of money in my pocket. I was looking at them for $800. You get a pretty decent raw copy, maybe a rounded corner here or there, something minor, pressable defects in them, stuff like that. But there are lots of raws out there, and you could land them for $600 to $800. $600 would be rougher shape. $800 would be, like I said, a nice acceptable copy. I'll save up my $800, and I save that up, and then there was none to be had. And then I started looking at, okay, well, so where are they at? What's the price range on them now? And it's like $1,600. The price had doubled over the course of 2 years. So I was like, okay, I can save more money. And I saved up to the point where I had $2,000 in my pocket ready to spend on a decent X-Men. And they were not there. The market was eating them up. This was in, I want to say, late 2019. And then during COVID, the prices on everything just went through the roof because everybody got free money. They all just went out and bought what they wanted regardless of price.
And no one was going anywhere, so they could spend their money on the internet.
So I did end up landing a copy for less than the $2,000 I'd saved up. And it wasn't as nice as I would have hoped for, but it's a copy I'm perfectly happy with. I consider, if you're spending that kind of money on, a comic book, it better be the kind of comic book that will always increase in value. And I think, keys like Giant Size X-Men 1 are definitely that. I did just land another, what I would consider a grail being an expensive comic book that I at one point wouldn't have thought I'd be able to afford, but I have it. But I haven't showed it on my own YouTube channel yet, so I'm hesitant to say what it is.
Well, I can edit it out.
So a while back, knowing that I was going to get this in a graded form, I was like, okay, I'm going to go after this book, and to guarantee that it doesn't have edges trimmed or any kind of happening with it that I can't undo, I have to get it graded to make sure it's right. And so I went and bought another smaller key. I got Fantastic 428 graded in a 5.5. And so that was a few $100s, not bad and I thought the price was right for that book. But I was like, I can't be a guy that's only got one slab. That's just weird. So I bought the little brother first, knowing I was going to get the big brother later.
Okay.
I ended up getting which is the first appearance of
Yep.
And I knew I wasn't going to get it in as nice a condition as I had always wanted, but I got a 4.0, which in my mind is kind of the lowest tier of acceptable condition. I've got a weird rating system, but acceptable means that, it's relatively flat, edges are decent. You can have some spine ticks and stuff like that. This particular copy's got kind of a faint color breaking crease in it. So, and those color breaks, the long color breaks, take a lot of value or really knock down the condition. Key to this one was that it was both right at the price I wanted, and it was white pages. Most comics of that era are going to be off-white to white at best, and a lot of them were off-white or cream-colored pages. So it was all the stars aligned. I had the money. It was the condition I wanted, and the white pages kind of put it over the edge. So you can leave all that in and just beep out what I bought if you want.
I will do that.
I ask because we're going to kind of tap into you as the comic collector aficionado. We've had people like Thunder Chicken's Kevin as a newbie comic collector. Now we have you as kind of the absolute veteran collector. We're kind of looking at like amongst the questions was like, you said you got the one slabbed. What do you think would necessitate you slabbing any of your existing collection? Because you said you kind of bought it because it was you want to make sure you got it in a decent enough condition. So the slabbing ensured that. But what about slabbing anything in your own collection?
I'm pretty sure I'll do that at some point with certain key books, higher dollar books that I've bought raw, or in some cases, like first appearance of Deadpool or Amazing Spider-Man 300, first appearance of Venom, where I bought those for cover price. Being a comic collector then, everything was at least bagged. Over the years I've bagged and boarded and then switched to Mylars for the really nice stuff. But yeah, all the stuff like that where I want to truly capitalize on the investment, more so for my family than for myself. Those books will get graded at some point, I would think. I mean, I haven't opened my ASM 300 for 30 years.
You don't read it every week?
No, I've had it pressed twice because I was going to have it graded, and then I spent the money I was going to spend on grading. I spent it on comic books. That's my problem. I would rather buy more of these books we're in a buyer's market right now. Prices have crashed. So I'm trying to capitalize on the opportunity, and then when I have money later, when everything starts getting more expensive, then I'll go for the grading. But ultimately, for any kind of investment level books, I want to have them graded because it puts the third party grade on it. So there's no arguing about what the condition is, whether I like it or not. CGC or CBCS would put their grade on it. My family, once I'm departed this mortal coil, will have some argument as to what the value of it is, because you can go on eBay and see what something sold for, and that's the value. The price goes up exponentially when you get stuff graded, especially on real high grade stuff. When you get into 9.6s and especially 9.8s, which are really tough to get. One of the reasons I bought this last Grail graded, besides the fact that I wanted to ensure the condition, is that the ungraded copies, the raw copies, in similar or less lower grade were going for the same price or a little bit more because people were gambling on that book is going to be a 5.0, and then they go get it graded, and it turns out to be a 3.5. And it's like, well, you've lost considerable amount of money.
Yeah.
It really came close. The graded value that I wanted to pay was really close to what the raw values were. And so at that point, I'm just like, I'm going to save the money because it's considerable cost to get something graded too. So I'll just save the money and get it graded and not have to worry about anything.
Because I've seen some people, and you kind of talked about pressing and the restorations and so forth. There was a guy my brother had recommended that I would start watching him on YouTube just for the pure relaxation of it. But it was Jerry the Jitterbug. I don't know if you're familiar with that guy at all, or if you're.
I don't think so.
He does some amazing work on comic book restoration. He talks about like soaking the comics to get them back to being white pages and cleaning things. And he'll use that Japanese paper to restore covers. So they've got that, if there's something missing, because he's actually like repaired like where the back covers fallen off. And he'll find nothing of a comic, let's say a Jughead of the same era, that came out the same month, and he'll take the back cover off of that and attach it to this one so that this one's got a complete cover. And it's stellar work, but then there's something about the history that's being lost.
There's varying degrees of, there's preservation, then there's restoration. I mean, and what you're describing is restoration. And depending on what the book is, sometimes it's worth it and sometimes it's not.
Okay.
What spurred me to start spending a lot of money on a few comics here and there, as I was financially comfortable with it, was the fact that I was at a show. I was at Wonderfest, which I was doing for work, and everything at the show is oriented around sci-fi, superheroes, pop culture, pretty much, all aspects of it, especially on the toy side and the collectible side. And they only had a couple comic book dealers there. But there was one dealer that was dealing mostly in Golden Age, but he had a raw Hulk 181 on his shelf. And this was probably in that 2018, 2019 era. And he wanted $500 for it. It was a really nice looking copy. But even at that point, I was like, okay, it looks really nice. Why is it so cheap? Mm-hmm. And I said, the common thing with that book is that it's missing the Marvel value stamp. So I was like,
cut out the stamp.
Right. So I was like, it's got to be missing the value stamp, right? And he's like, no, it's got the value stamp in it. It's missing the center spread. So I was like, okay. So I started doing the math and looking up on eBay. Okay, how much is a coverless Hulk 181? If I could get another issue that I could salvage the centerfold out of, I could marry this thing, and I could either just be the bad guy and just do that and sell it and not inform the buyer, or I could send it in and get it graded. And if the registration doesn't match perfectly, which it probably wouldn't, it would get a restored grade. And I was like, okay, so would I still come out ahead if I'm going to be in it for 500? The coverless copies were still like 300. And I was like, well, I get more than $800 out of it if I go through all this. But the thing was, I didn't have permission from the wife to go spend that kind of money at that time. So I was like, that's a non-starter. I can't even consider it.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever since then, I've been one of those. I've been the type that's like, I really need to have some money in my pocket so that if something else like that comes along, I got to take advantage of it when the opportunity arises.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that 181 for a second. I'm personally in the camp to say that that's the second appearance of Wolverine and not the first.
First cover appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Because 180, he shows up inside. Yep. I don't know.
That is one of the great comic book geek debates. One of the old guy comic book debates.
Yeah, I just don't understand how people say that's his first appearance. I think it's just the people that have that issue and want it to be the first appearance.
Let me guess, you've got a 180.
No, I don't.
But those are the guys that are usually the most vocal about which one they think is the first appearance. Oddly enough, the kid I grew up next door to me, we were both all into the same exact stuff: Star Wars toys, G.I. Joe, comic books. We were both artists, aspiring comic book artists, and he got a Hulk 180 in a garage sale, and even at that point, we're like, "Hey, it's cool. It's got Wolverine in it." And it's not until we sat down and read it, we're like, I think this might be the first appearance of Wolverine.
Right.
We read that thing to shreds, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Later on, I got really jealous of him because he and his dad, when we were probably early teenagers, he and his dad went to a local comic book show, and they got a giant size X-Men, and they paid $50 for it.
Oh.
It was a nice copy.
Yeah.
Years later, I asked him about it, and I said, "Did you get that graded?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, what was the grade?" A 9.4.
Ooh, that is nice.
I remember he had it in a top loader in an era where we had those the bags of the day were cloudy, like the day you put a comic in a bag, right? But he had a legit top loader for it.
Yeah, there's some, the comics that I remember. The kid up the street, his dad knew what a collectible was. He was into the baseball cards, so he had the entire run, when pre-baseball cards when they were on the side of cigarette packs.
Yep.
He had that entire run, and he knew that these things had value, and he understood that the comics were going to have a value. So this is the 70s. So I would say probably late 70s. That kid had the entire run of the Fantastic Four and the Avengers up to that point.
Wow.
And, his dad was like, now hold on to these. And it's so we would be able to kind of witness these, but we were, definitely, it's
they were like the living room furniture that you couldn't sit on, right?
It was a little bit more like Schrodinger's cat because they were all in boxes. And it was in this box is the entire run of Fantastic Four. It's is there really the entire run of the Fantastic Four? Or you just BSing because you just wanted, because we never opened the box, but you just knew that they were in there.
Is this the same kid that shot fireworks out of his wrists and ran home burning?
No.
Or is that a different neighbor kid?
A different neighborhood. We had a lot of neighborhood kids. This is the one that he got the worst black eye. We had an apple fight. And this is still comic book related because I'll explain how it's connected. We had an apple fight. So there was these two apple trees in their backyard. And we just zing apples at each other across the yard. And you had unlimited supplies of apples. Well, he comes in with his red shield sled, his winter sled. And he was going to go all Captain America with this thing. And he was going to use that to block the apples hitting him. So then he became kind of the centralized target because he came with a sled. And so everybody was just zinging. And another neighborhood kid who was on the baseball team belts one, just boom, full fastball right at it. That red plastic sled, that circular sled, folded in half on impact. And that apple did not slow a bit. It just clocked him right in the face. And it was for the rest of the summer, we just kind of kept calling him Quasimodo because his eye just swelled up to the point where it was closed. And he was just, hey guys, how's it going? And his whole side of his face was just, and it's yeah, that was probably a bit too far with that one. But yeah, that But yeah,
So you created your Lex Luthor, did you?
Yeah, and from that day on, we are arch nemesis. Yeah.
Quasimodo versus Mike Murphy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just he's now a multimillionaire somewhere and planning his revenge. It's been decades in the making.
That's right.
But
and he lost his hair too.
For some unbeknownst reason. Don't know why that was even there. How that happened. You were talking about like key issues and so forth. I'm going to ask, it's a twofold question, but it's, what do you think is your most valuable comic? And then what do you think if the place caught on fire and you could only rescue one issue, what would that be?
I'm quite certain my Giant Size X-Men is the most valuable. The one I would grab in a fire. I mean, if I was smart, I would grab that one. But if I'm thinking with my heart, I would probably be silly and grab my copy of X-Men 136 off my spinner rack. That was the comic that turned me into a lifelong reader and collector.
Really?
Because the drama in that one comic, and it was the issue before the death of Phoenix.
Okay, because it's the one with Cyclops, right, carrying her or something like that.
Yeah, everything from the cover to the whole story inside. I had never noticed the X-Men before that comic, and I saw it on the spinner rack, saw the cover. I was like, this is an amazing cover. What in the world is going on? So I flipped through it. There's drama from cover to cover. So I'm like, okay, got to take this home, read it. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out what it was that I liked about it so much, but so much that I knew there was more of this comic with this team, with this kind of art in it out there that I had to go back and find. And what it was the fact that it didn't talk down to me. It was like a soap opera level comic, which that's what most good continuing comics are. We just don't like to admit that. But it was likable characters in an incredibly dramatic situation where the stakes were incredibly high, and not one panel in it kind of gives you the, hey, I know you're a kid looking at this. I got that issue, and then the next issue I got was issue 138, which was the issue after the death of the Phoenix. And so in that issue, it kicks off with the graveside scene, and then the whole issue is a flashback of the entire history of the X-Men. So between those two issues, I had a pretty good sense of everything that's gone on, and just knew, okay, I got to go back and find all these issues I'm missing, and then I'm coming back next month to make sure I get 139. And so once I got 138 home, I started thinking, I think I saw 137 on that spinner rack. So the next time I go back, I got to go through every slot on the spinner rack to see if I can find a copy 137. And of course, it wasn't there. And that was my first white whale. That was the first grail that I had to find. We would go on vacations, and I'd be like, okay, we're in a strange town, and we're in a hotel, and there's a comic book shop right across the street. Can we go to the comic shop? Sure, we'll go to the comic shop. And it's up on the wall, and it's $9.
No.
And it's like, please, can I have it? No, but here's Teen Titans number 10. All right, I guess I'll take that. So it wasn't until probably 5, 6, 7 years later, we're actually going to a wedding, and my brother needed shoes. It was my cousin's wedding. So we go to the church. My mom's, she's like, she sends me and my dad and my brother to go get my brother dress shoes. And she's there to help with the bride and all that kind of stuff. And we just needed something to do for an hour. So we go get my brother dress shoes. And then on the way back, we spot a yard sale. And in this yard sale, there's a picnic table it's just filled with stacks of comics. And I start flipping through, and my dad's like, here's $8. I'm like, holy cow. And the guy's like, yeah, it's a quarter a piece. I'll sell you everything for $100. I'm like, Dad? And he's like, $8. I'm like, all right. So he had all the John Byrne and George Perez Avengers. He had all the Frank Miller Daredevils, and he had all the John Byrne X-Men.
Dang.
So I got the majority of the John Byrne X-Men run for a quarter a piece.
Undercover price.
Yeah. And included in that was a pretty well-read copy of 137. So I finally landed it and only had to pay a quarter for it.
Do you still have that version, or did you upgrade?
I know I upgraded. I think I do have 2 copies. The upgrade copy I've had signed, and then I've got I still have the reader copy.
So you can slab the one and keep the other one as a reader.
Yeah, and I could send it to CGC and still get a blue label because all the signatures are on the front page like they're supposed to be.
Ah.
Nowadays, so if you send a comic to CGC and it's got an autograph on the front, they'll put a green label on it. I'm trying to remember what they call the green label. Qualified. It's a qualified grade. It would be this grade if it didn't have this one significant flaw, which is some fool signed his name on it.
We can't verify who it was, so
Right. So CBCS, who is CGC's competitor, has a service where they will verify. They'll chase down an autograph to verify the authenticity.
Ah.
But CGC won't touch that. But if you've got markings inside the comic book, it will still get the regular universal grade instead of the qualified grade.
That almost sounds like it's too much for my brain to comprehend all the subtleties. It's like almost too much more.
It's taken me a couple years of kind of being into it to, understand it all. And the outside looking in, the 12-year-old self in me is screaming at myself, "Idiot! Don't buy these silly comics that are encased in plastic. Open them up and read them."
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point where I have no qualms with anybody going one way or the other. I'm not going to personally be a collector that gets stacks and stacks of these things, but I'll have a few that are, like I said, investment quality kind of pieces.
Going back to the X-Men 136, it's a classic cover. Cyclops is holding Jean Grey or the Phoenix, in his arms and, wailing to the skies. Is that the first of that pose or posturing on the cover? Or I know technically It goes back, like some people reference like Batman carrying Robin's body in the Silver Age or like Golden Age.
There's actually a term for it, and it goes back to Michelangelo. It's a Pieta cover.
Yeah, with the Mary holding the body. Yeah.
Yep, Mary holding the body of Christ is the Pieta.
It didn't really get important until George Perez did it on Crisis. that was the best one. So I think we would all agree on that. No, wait.
The earliest instance that comes to mind is actually Neil Adams. He did I think it was a Brave and the Bold with Batman holding Sergeant Rock or vice versa. One of them's hold the other. But I think there is earlier instances of it. But both the John Byrne, the George Perez version is a real close knockoff of the John Byrne, and the John Byrne is a relatively close knockoff of the Neil Adams.
Yeah, it's just that pose has been used several times since, but I think this is the one that's like most known as a start. But then then followed quickly by the Crisis, and then after that, everything else has just been paying homage to.
I had read Crisis. It'd been 20 or 30 years since I read Crisis originally. Before I realized the Superman holding Supergirl was so close to the X-Men 136. I mean, I don't know what it was about it. Maybe it was having all the characters in the background that I just never dawned on me that they were so close.
Just the superiority of the art. And,
no bias being evident.
No bias there whatsoever.
Yeah. Now, have you gone out and bought a comic because it was a direct market version versus the spinner rack with the UPC?
No.
Yeah.
And there are certain books where I pay attention to that and others where I don't. That garage sale I talked about, I did pick up the Daredevil 168, which first appearance of Elektra. But that cover was pretty beat and it had some rips. So I sold that a couple years ago, but I knew when I got a replacement, I definitely wanted the barcode version, because that's the way comic books are supposed to be. Because that's the way I bought them off the spinner rack. Yeah. Spider-Man has no place putting his face on a Daredevil or an X-Men. Nowadays, the companies will do silly things like, we'll do Spider-Man month, and we'll have whole variant covers where no matter what the title is, it'll have Spider-Man on the cover.
Yeah.
Or Conan. That one drove me nuts. They put Conan on every cover as one of their variants, and I just...
Or Aliens,
why?
or Predator,
or whatever license they got. Yeah, I was not a fan because I've been duped. I think I understand, like it sells more copies and people. I'm all for people buying whatever they want to buy. If there's a variant for them, that's great. But I'm visual, and I remember my comics not by the number, but the covers. Like, I don't remember that cover. I don't remember that cover.
Right, exactly.
So I open it up because I don't open up a comic at a store anymore because it's all sealed and. So it's like, then I open it up and I go like, oh crap, I have this issue. It's just that these.
So I keep a pretty good shopping list, so that and it's in paper form, folded up in my wallet, right in the place where I used to hold the rubber. That's not true at all. I never held rubbers. But much like that, when the opportunity strikes, I know I can pull that out, and I'll be well protected to not have to buy a comic I already have.
Yeah.
Now you just write it on the rubber.
Yeah. It's a little brittle now, but I've had this thing for 25 years. Same list.
Oh, you should see I'll replace the paper about once a year or so, and by the time I do, it's kind of in tatters.
That's great. Yeah, I was going to ask, because it sounds like you keep that, and I know Andy, you've got like an app or something on your phone that you keep all your comics listed that you do own.
Yeah, I use CLZ.
Yeah, that's right.
I jumped on that. On that bandwagon really early on. I'm actually grandfathered in.
Me too. High five.
Yeah, that's right. So I don't have to pay for it anymore. It's just in there. I don't get some of the perks, but I don't really use that stuff anyway.
Right.
So,
that was a sweet deal. The fact that, you bought it on a CD, right? Originally.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so over time they're like, we're switching to a subscription plan, but anybody that bought the lifetime access through the CD, you're still on board.
You're still going. Yep. They always want me to change into the monthly, but I don't see why. So I'm not going to. So I use that. And, I'd like to say that it saves me a lot of money from buying duplicates. But every once in a while, I'll still buy a duplicate. Just like Mike was about to say, those covers, a variant cover or something. Oh, I don't have that issue. I know it. I don't have to look it up. And sure enough, it's, it was just a rarer cover than I had before. So some of the newer Legion stuff with Bendis, I had some variants that suckered me in like that. But
the only way you can ever buy a Bendis book.
That's right. Sucker. I don't know. We were talking about slabs. I personally don't have anything slabbed. There was a couple times within the last year and a half that I looked at a couple slabs. Like there was of course, George Perez. I hate bringing up my favorite artist, but there's a couple of Teen Titans that I thought were pretty affordable, and I thought, should I do this? But I never really did. And
there's certain books I think that right now that are, I don't want to say they're irresistible, because the price is so low, in my opinion, because I've managed to resist them. But
yeah, you didn't buy them yet.
There are certain books out there that are, like I said, it's a buyer's market right now, and the prices are so low. It's like you're going to kick yourself later for not buying some of these things. The thing that comes to mind, I look for. I'm looking for a nice copy, and by nice, I want the whites on the cover to be white. New Gods #1.
Oh yeah, Kirby.
And that's a book that was from that era where the paper quality was just susceptible to aging, to browning, and it's hard to find that. I've not personally in person seen a copy with white paper on the cover. So I'm looking for a nice white copy, nice and clean, relatively high grade. I'd take it raw or graded, but I just passed on an offer. The guy was off. I think the full price was $200 for a New Gods 1 and a 9.2. It was $200 or best offer. I watched it, and usually one of the eBay tips is if you watch something, sometimes people will send you an offer. And he knocked it down to $150.
Wow.
And I was this close to buying it, and then I looked at the page quality was off-white pages. And I was like, even a 9.2.
Yeah, but 9.2, wow. I would have jumped on that.
The Kirby New God stuff is ripe for the pickings as far as getting it kind of on the cheap. But the fact that, they talked about they were doing a movie and then it didn't happen, the plans for it fell through. James Gunn's taken over and hasn't talked about anything about the New Gods yet. So people are just totally sleeping on it. And there's going to come a day when somebody's going to come around and do the New Gods right, do Kirby right on the big screen, and it's going to be New Gods.
I'm not sure I have that much faith over them doing it right, but maybe someday. I guess
we live in a fantasy world filled with superheroes. We just want to see it come to life in front of our eyes.
Well, some would argue that the Masters of the Universe movie was the New Gods movie. They had the boom tubes, they had Skeletor's dark side, and
the Dolph Lundgren one.
Yeah. I mean, that was, I think John Byrne postulated that. It's like, if you ever want to see a New Gods movie, watch the Masters of the Universe movie, and that will be your ticket to seeing what a New Gods could look like on the big screen.
I guess I should watch it. I've never seen it.
It's I think free on YouTube, if that tells you anything. So.
I can send you my copy too. No need to return it.
Yeah, but I mean, they've got instead of a mother box, they have the cosmic key. I mean, like you can extract. It's not obviously it's really a Masters of the Universe movie, but there's a lot of striking similarities that they had done. That was like. Yeah, one of the things I was going to ask, and you talked about yellowing pages. So I kind of got into a mood of looking at like some really early stuff of John Byrne, and I picked up a couple of issues and I gave them to a friend of mine at work. But that Doomsday +1, it was a Charlton comic. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine any of those things being graded because Charlton, of all the publishers out there, I always felt like Charlton was like the lowest quality. Have you ever seen a Charlton comic slabbed?
Yes, I'm pretty sure I have. Specifically the Doomsday +1 stuff. I think that even I think they published the Space 1999 stuff too. I think I've seen some of those slabbed. But you're getting into it. I mean, the key to collecting comics is you collect what you like. True. And there are guys out there, they grew up the same time we did. We're into the same stuff we were into, and they appreciate finding that stuff and buying it in high grade. A website that's actually a service, and it's a pay service you have to join, called GP Analysis. I have no idea what GP stands for, but they analyze graded comic prices, specifically CGC, and they'll tell you, and you might even find this on the CGC site, they'll tell you how many graded comics there are of any given issue.
Wow.
And so what they call that's the census. They're keeping track of everything that has been bought or sold is on GP Analysis, and it's the slabbed collector's true price guide, because they're watching eBay, they're watching all the big auction houses, and whenever a comic is sold, it gets recorded on there. I was surprised the comic I just bought was on there within like 2 days. What it does is it shows you like what you can figure out. Okay, what's the going rate on this? What's the monthly average? How is it? They have a bar graph, just like it's like watching the stock.
Wow.
They track it, through history what the sales have been.
So if Orwell had Big Brother, would this be OMAC then, or Brother Eye
Indeed.
technically?
Yep. Getting back to your point about who would collect at Charlton. Well, it's truly more rare and collectible if there's only 2 or 3 of them. And if, say somebody sent in, 15 copies of that Doomsday #1 and only one of them's a 9.8. So, okay, if you find a nice looking copy out there and you send it in and have it graded and it's 9.8 too, well, you've got a pretty valuable comic book because the rarity, the scarcity, it all plays into the value.
That makes sense. I remember there was a Jackie Chan film. Can't remember the name of it, but basically this guy buys the super rare stamp, and there was only 3 of them left in existence, and he rips them into like they're all connected. He rips 2 of them off, shreds them, and it's like now there's only 1 of these stamps in existence, and it, like the value of this thing skyrockets after he did that.
The big joke is everybody collects Turok #1, the Valiant art series with the chromium cover. Everybody's like, it's a big joke if you've got a stack of Turok #1s. Or it's getting more rare these days, but earlier in the YouTube kind of the community forming, part of the charm of it was people would send AOKs, acts of kindness, and just here's a box of comics I thought you'd like. I don't expect anything back. I hope you like it. And so people just fire these AOKs back and forth, but it was always kind of a joke. Include a copy of Turok #1 in your AOK. At this point, people just need to start burning their Turok #1s, and if everybody gets on board, eventually they'll become rare. My first appearance on YouTube was on one of the kind of the big events that started getting people really interested in comic book reviews and discussions on YouTube was the idea of a comic book battle. And a lot of the community was embracing this notion of comic book battles, but the person presenting the comic takes on a personality of a WWF wrestler. So you'd have a guy, Immortal Biggie Shack is the Hulk Hogan fan, and Comic Cat 84 is the Macho Man Randy Savage fan. So they'd come on, they'd dress up, in the sunglasses, all that, bandanas, and they're in character battling each other. The comic book I'm showing is better than your comic book. Anybody in the audience gets to vote, and then they'll do a few rounds, and then, do 3 rounds and best of 3 wins, and they're the champion for the week. My first appearance on YouTube was well orchestrated, where I had a mask. I called myself, but I made a mask similar to Deadpool's, and got on this kind of wrestling show, and we were doing 5 comics, and the theme was bloody cover, right? I'd pull out like a Dracula with, blood, on his fangs or something like that. I can't remember all the books I pulled out, but the big ending performance was that I pulled out Youngblood #1 because the word blood was in the title. Except it wasn't bloody enough. So I had bought one of the tubes of Fate blood, that you get at Halloween. Oh, yeah. I had a tray and everything set up right here by my camera and everything. I laid that copy of Youngblood in it, just doused it with blood, and held that up as my bloody cover. And the crowd went wild. So there's 1 copy. I did my part to get it out in the census.
Yep. Do you remember? I think it was Continuity Comics that were doing all the gimmicks, like the indestructible cover, and then they had the bullet hole that went through like the entire cover. Like they had basically die cut a hole, bored it right through the entire comic.
I don't remember that, but I remember the Tyvek covers.
Yeah, and then they had one other cover that had like, that thermographic type ink where you could rub. It was like the cover had blood all over it, but if you rubbed, like it would go away, and then the blood would return as it cooled back off. The heat in your hand would make the blood go away. And I can't remember what issue that was, but that was that gimmick. It was like a 3-dimensional droplets of blood. Oh, and I do remember now that was Continuity Comics, but I think the all-time worst gimmick cover was Eclipso #1, where he had that jewel, the actual plastic jewel.
Plastic gem glued to the cover.
Yeah.
Which
I still have
I always had to have like a stack of Kleenex in front of that so it didn't ruin the back of the cover, the comic that was in front of it in the box.
Yep, exactly. For that reason, that thing was like it could only stand alone because there was nothing. It was like a kid who peed in the pool. You couldn't get anywhere near it.
I found that comic in the dollar bins a lot, and the jewel was always gone. So I figured there's a bunch of kids running around trying to blast people with the jewel.
But that character was like crazy hot for a while, and then just poof, vanished off the.
Yeah, there's the Lobo effect.
Yeah. Now, have you bought issues or had issues that you're like, oh, this is super valuable, and then like you said with the Lobo, like let's say was that a Mega Man 3 or 6 or something like that?
3.
Okay, I was right the first time.
2 or 3.
Edit it out so I sound like I
3.
know what I'm talking about.
I think it's 3.
But yeah, the first appearance of Lobo and in his yellow and purple costume or something like that.
Yeah, it totally doesn't look like the character.
Nah, but it was like
He's skinny.
His first appearance, and it's like, oh man, this is super valuable. But then now it's like, Lobo, who's Lobo? And so the value just plummeted after popularity. Have you found that you were like, I gotta buy this issue because he's super popular and I can flip it, and then to find out that, oh, I missed my window? Yeah,
so you're getting into like comic book speculation, which investment grade comics is definitely speculation. But to be a speculator, you have to be able to sell. And what I've found is it's very easy to buy and very difficult to sell. Yeah, and so I'm pretty much stuck with everything I've bought. So, but as far as like, has there been a character out there where I was like, I want to go get that character and then be let down by it? There are kooky characters. I like some of the more obscure cosmic characters in the Marvel pantheon, like Infinity and Eternity and all those kind of characters.
Tribunal.
Yeah, and this stems out of like the Jim Starlin run on Captain Marvel and Warlock. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I should go back. I should go find the first appearance of Lady Moondragon. Do you remember her?
Yep. The green costume, bald-headed lady.
Yep, bald head, green costume, big flowy cape. And so I was like, I'll go find that. And it's an issue of Iron Man it's a pretty cool Gene Colan cover where Submariner is fighting Iron Man. But I can't remember what Lady Moondragon's real name was in that issue, and it was weird. Like they renamed her like 3 appearances later. She got her Moondragon name, but she's got this really strange name, and instead of a green outfit, it's a brown outfit. And I'm like, what colorist decided that brown is the way to go on any character to begin with? But I got that, and I was like, I got it, I guess. And it's a cool cover, and I did want the character, but the actual story was blasé. It's real hard to follow. It was in that era where Jim Starlin was just getting high and writing comics. he was on acid the whole time, and nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
Huh. Jim Starlin, you say?
Have you?
I'm sorry, I didn't know he was your uncle.
Yeah.
I would disown him.
Yeah. We've had our commentary about, because we read both. We did Infinity Gauntlet and Cosmic Odyssey.
Cosmic Odyssey.
I heard your criticism of Cosmic Odyssey, and I remember that storyline fondly, and I reread it like maybe 2 years ago, and I still like it.
It has its moments, but how much of it is nostalgia and amazing Mignola art?
It's the Mignola art, and then what happens with Jon Stewart, the fact that it's kind of a character shaking event there. But what I really liked was how he wrote Batman in that, where I just felt like, okay, here's Batman in a setting where he's not just in grim and gritty Gotham, but he's still a character that's tough. He has a lot of gravitas, but he's amongst all these super-powered heroes with these creepy fourth world villains, and he's still Batman.
And he still uses a phone to call Dr. Fate.
Who wouldn't
remember that?
Mike, I'll tell you that Omega Man #3, I got it off the rack originally. I think, it's probably worth $10.
Yeah, it's actually, it's a hot comic right now after all the Jason Momoa rumors and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Really? I thought he had locked himself in as being Aquaman, but I guess if Chris Evans can go from the Human Torch to Captain America,
I think it'd be terrible branding if they do it. I think it's mostly wishful thinking among fans. Having worked in licensed product, and not that I like get any behind the scenes kind of industry info or anything like that, but so many of the rumors are just fans just making stuff up, and then some news site catches on, and then everybody posts it on their Instagram, and it just lights the world on fire. And I'm like, there's this thing called branding and character identity where I don't think they're going to pick up Jason Momoa from one spot in the DCU and drop him into another spot and have audiences be okay with it.
One last question that I had for you, still comic related, but instead of the comic books themselves and slabbing the comic books, original artwork, has that had any appeal or draw where you felt like you had to go out and buy an original page from a comic?
I have a few pieces, and I look at them, and I've got a nice double page spread by Norm Brayfogle from Shadow the Bat #4, where it's Batman fighting pretty much the entire Rogues Gallery in Arkham Asylum. It's got Joker, Riddler, Mr. Zaz. I think he's in it. I mean, that's what the storyline was about. I can't remember if he's on the page I have or not. But so I got that, and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, man, this is a nice piece of art. I wonder what it's worth. It's hard to find the value on it, but I know what I paid for it. I wish I would have taken that money and bought a Hulk 181 instead. It would be a lot more, and I was probably looking at even money, or the Hulk 181 was probably less expensive than what I paid.
Oh. But the one thing about owning original art is that that's what was used inside the book, and this is a truly one of a kind.
But it's still nichey in the fact that you can display it, but you can't. You can frame it, but you can't really show it in daylight. So a lot of people just have portfolios of their collection.
Mm-hmm. As you flip through these books, and
it's kind of so expensive that you really can't have a lot of it unless that's really what you're going to be into, and some people are. There was a certain point in my life where I would go to 2 or 3 comic conventions a year, and I would not spend a lot of money at the convention, but I would spend a lot of time standing in line getting autographs. And then I had a small 5x7 sketchbook that I would get head sketches in, and that was fun to get, like a book with a bunch of different artists in it. That's one of my prized possessions. But
that's really cool.
I like the art. I've picked the lane of I'm only going to really invest in comics, and I'm almost to the point of if I could find somebody that would pay me really nicely for the original pieces I have, I've got probably 6 or 7, I'd probably part with them and buy a higher grade, buy a key, buy a nice investment level book, just because I think the value of the comics go up faster than the value of the original art does.
Yeah, because there's some where I've seen where there's a famous artist did a thing, but the page was so inconsequential, but you're still paying like $300 for that page. It's like, here's a comic with Superman drawn by Kurt Swan, and it was from the Alan Moore's, like, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
You get that, but it's like the page is just nothing but Perry White, and and there's no Superman on it. And you're like, yeah. It's from that book. It's a pivotal issue, but yeah.
It's got words that Alan Moore wrote, but he never actually touched the page. So
exactly. So I always kind of wonder. It's like, man, because I see those at comic conventions, and somebody's got all this original art, and it's like, I love looking at the behind the scenes. Like, you can see the ink.
Yeah,
and they went from that rapidograph to an ink pen, a quill type pen, a nibs.
Yep.
And then they went to a brush.
As an artist, yeah, just looking at that stuff, you just like to look at the craft, the hand that's involved. Kind of in your mind, you're kind of deciphering, oh, he used this pen for that, or that's a brush stroke for sure versus, a quill. And then, like, the Norm Brayfogle page I have, if you look at that, you're like, okay, I could count like maybe 12 different utensils that he used to ink this thing, because it's so inconsistent. And you see the slight variations in the tones of the black and stuff like that. One's a bluish black, one's kind of fading, and you can just tell, all the different stuff that was used. I've collected a few of these big IDW books, the artisan editions, where they reproduce the art, just
actual size,
flat scanned them, just straight scans, and at full size, full print size, or not print size, but original art size. Mm-hmm. And so I've got the John Byrne Avengers one, and I've got the Bernie Wrightson Swamp Thing and the Jack Kirby New Gods editions. And I still keep my eye out. They did a John Byrne X-Men one with 136 as the cover, and I'd like to get that, but they're also collectible and somewhat rare, so it's the prices go up on them, when they go out of print. But yeah, if you can get your hands on those are excellent ways to enjoy more, get the feel of the original art without having to pay the exorbitant prices of actually owning an individual piece.
Yep, and they look nice on a shelf.
Yep, nice big books. I love collecting big books.
Yeah, those, and that's no lie.
Darn it, I was going to say that.
Beat you to it, sorry, man. Yeah. Well, with that, the only other thing I was going to say is just to make certain that we promote your YouTube. We had talked about that earlier, and we even Andy and I both appeared on it now months ago.
Yeah.
But wanted to give a moment for you to give your promote your YouTube channel.
Sure. Yeah, I'm jhood Comics now on YouTube. I used to be jhoodcreative. That I kind of evolved it. I created the channel, the presence, the Gmail presence to kind of brand my creative services, and then I started chiming in on comments on videos and stuff, and like, I'm jhoodcreative. Well, eventually I got come around to doing comics, and I was doing content under jhoodcreative for a while now. I still have that in my branding and my intros and stuff. I need to change it, but you look for me there on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram, and a lot of the content I'm doing on YouTube is kind of the same type of stuff that you guys do. I think you guys do it better. You guys do you guys have found that sweet spot of the mix of mixing real life and comics. And I set out, I'm like, we can't do real life. We're just talking about comics on this. And then what gets lost in the translation is that connective tissue of human to human interaction of, oh yeah, I can relate to, being a dad, or, talking about, friends, events, just life happening. And I think you guys do that like super well.
Well, we can have you on again, and we can talk about being dads and stuff like that.
The joys of fatherhood and how to balance that with everything else is like
why I think my oldest doesn't like me anymore and stuff like that. Yeah, let's do that.
It was fun early on when like my girls were little and cute, and they'd like pop on and want to sit on my lap while I'm doing a YouTube stream, and like my interaction would go up. Everybody's excited to see the girls, and then they'd go away, and like I'd lose 2 viewers.
We're only here to see your daughters.
Yeah.
But,
that
you'll find if you check out my channel, you'll find me, and you'll actually find I talk the least on my channel. I felt like I've talked a lot during the show, but I let my pals Coach Vic and Al Shell share their feelings on comics, and we'll usually pick a topic and just kind of just talk it to death until people just don't want to hear us yammer anymore. And
it's live, right? You do only live?
Yeah. I started out doing recorded, and there's just something about being able to interact with the audience, get immediate feedback, even though I do it terribly. I try, but that's one of the downfalls of you guys not having, since you're doing a podcast and it's available through, a wider range. Like I listen through Spotify, but I'll be listening and I'm like, yeah, I got to leave a comment about what they're talking about. And I'm like, I'm going to have to go find them on Facebook and make a comment on Facebook or something.
No one wants to do that.
So I like the immediacy of having the audience in front of me. And I also, so doing all this has been kind of a purposeful growth exercise for me, in that I'm normally really introverted, and I wanted to find a way to build this ability to be able to speak, especially specifically on comics. I wanted to eventually be like, hey, we want to talk to some expert about comics, and I'd be the guy they call. That hasn't happened yet. But so it's me like trying to put aside my perfectionist tendencies and kind of go live, and I found that I can do it better just talking to an audience, even if no one happens to be there. It's easier for me to do that than to stare into just a camera and act like there's an audience behind it. So.
Well, we'll have to have you on again. We're planning like for March Madness, we're going to do an artist ranking kind of brackets and stuff like that. And so I'd like to have other people involved too. So if, we kind of judge on which artist we like better between a pair, and then we'll go on to the next bracket and stuff.
I'd love it.
That would be a fun to have someone who knows their stuff.
I was trying to do I call it a thought exercise, but I was trying to get to the point where I narrowed down who the top 4 comic book artists of all time were, because to me 3 are easy to pick, and it's the 4th one that's the problem. So I went through the step of researching a bunch of artists and kind of noting their strengths and weaknesses and kind of comparing. So I've got opinions I could share.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
great.
We like nothing else. It's all about opinions.
That's right. Yeah. Thanks for being on the show. Our webpage, and this is why I love comics podcast.buzzsprout.com. You can email us, and this is why I love comics @gmail.com. We're on the Twitter and this is why I L1. We're on that Facebook, but nobody really comments there anyway, and this is why I love comics podcast. Thanks to producer Tony, co-hosts Matt 2.0, Kevin and Matt 10.0, and now Jamie. We'll add you to the ranks of that. Go check out, we'll have some links in the show notes to go right away to his YouTube channel and give him some love. Thanks to Thunder Chicken for the tunes. Check them out on Spotify.
Simple things, what things, I want to fly, I'm not afraid to die, yeah, I guess all of you have felt almost all of them, these animals need to live.
That's all I ever say on that. So,
Yeah.
hit the Thunder Chicken.
Walk. Yeah, at some point we have to go to a Thunder Chicken concert just to
Right.
Just be right in the front row. Throw up your rock
waving
face.
comic books.
I do eventually want to give out Thunder Chicken t-shirts because I have one. They're pretty cool.
Yeah. What we could do is, like, you know how at most concerts the lady folks will throw their underwear out onto the stage. We'll just throw like comics out. It's like, here's that young blood. Here's the death of Superman.
Propeller Man.
Thunder Chicken, this is for you, Kevin.